Take a look at Jake. At 22 years old, he sets a goal to save 15% of his income every single year until he hits traditional retirement at age 65. By every conventional measure, Jake is doing exactly what he's supposed to do. Financial advisors, personal finance blogs, and his parents all agree this slow, steady accumulation is the responsible way to manage money. Now meet Marcus. He is exactly the same age, lives in the same city, and earns the exact same salary as Jake. But Marcus is playing a completely different game. Instead of a 40-year marathon, Marcus runs a high-intensity 7-year sprint. He strips his expenses down, lives on half his income, and aggressively front-loads his investment accounts. Then, on his 29th birthday, he intends to stop saving for retirement entirely. Marcus is betting that 7 years of aggressive action can match 40 years of slow persistence. If the numbers hold, he will arrive at nearly the same financial destination as Jake, but with 30 extra years to live on his own terms. Jake's path is complicated by a psychological default called hedonic adaptation. When humans experience an upgrade in their quality of life, the initial joy fades quickly, and that new luxury becomes the new baseline expectation. As Jake's salary grows over his career, his lifestyle expands to absorb it. He gets a promotion, buys a slightly better car, and moves to a nicer neighborhood. The income goes up, but the mathematical gap between what he earns and what he spends stays exactly the same. Underneath that creeping lifestyle is a very real inherited anxiety. Average earners have watched wages stagnate and financial institutions collapse. The economic trauma from events like the 2008 financial crisis trained an entire generation to cling to the safety of a 40-year corporate grind because the alternatives felt too risky. When traditional markers of wealth, like a paid-off house or a robust pension, feel out of reach, people often substitute them with the appearance of wealth. They optimize their spending for aesthetics, financing cars and vacations that look like success, while their actual net worth barely moves. Following the safest, most widely accepted rules of personal finance guarantees a lifetime of exhaustion. Marcus recognized that the system is designed to keep him working, so he calculated a mathematical loophole to buy his way out. By the time they both turned 29, Jake's steady 15% savings rate has built a respectable $38,000, but Marcus's extreme frugality has spiked his portfolio to $135,000. Here is where Marcus makes his pivot. He stops contributing to his retirement accounts. Every dollar he earns for age 29 onward goes towards his current lifestyle, and his retirement contribution line drops to zero. He reached a specific threshold called the crossover point. At $135,000, an average 8% market return adds nearly $11,000 to his portfolio in a single year. The market is now contributing more to his retirement than he could reasonably save from his own salary. That compounding base acts as a replacement engine. The money itself takes over the heavy lifting, removing Marcus from the retirement equation. Marcus didn't pick the perfect stock or time a market bubble. He simply stacked enough capital early enough in his life to force time and compound interest to work in his favor. This graph projects both accounts forward to age 59. Jake, who diligently saved 15% of his income every month for 40 years, arrives at $1.4 million. Marcus, who hasn't invested a single dime in 3 decades, arrives at $1.36 million. The final balances are nearly identical. The difference is the 30 years of lived experience between those two numbers. But this strategy carries a localized threat known as sequence of returns risk. If a severe market downturn happens early in the investing window, the math falls apart. A 30% drop in year 4 wipes out a massive portion of the compounding base before it ever reaches that self-sustaining threshold. Without time to recover, the portfolio loses its momentum, and the individual is forced back into aggressive saving. Coast financial independence requires deep sacrifice in your 20s, and it requires the market to cooperate during that narrow window. It is a calculated, aggressive sprint to buy freedom. Without the burden of saving for retirement, Marcus reclaims 20 to 30% of his gross income starting at age 29. He redirects those funds immediately into his daily life. Because his required expense floor is lower, he can dictate his own terms. He works part-time, negotiates remote contracts, and takes a 6-month sabbatical every decade without ever touching his investments. There is academic evidence backing this approach. Researchers at the University of British Columbia and Harvard found that people who use their money to buy free time report significantly higher subjective well-being than those who optimize for consumer goods. Most people stockpile wealth for a distant date on a calendar. Front-loading a portfolio generates walking away money right in the middle of your prime earning years, giving you the leverage to walk away from bad jobs, bad deals, and burnout. By front-loading his portfolio, Marcus buys the right to be present for his own life as it happens. He secures a 7-figure retirement while maintaining the absolute autonomy to dictate exactly how he spends his most valuable, non-renewable resource, his time.